The first thing I'm going to do is give a disclaimer. Parental advisory all over this video. Like, I'm being honest with you. I don't know what I'm going to say. Now, one thing about me is when I curse, I don't do so because I don't know what to say. I do so to emphasize my points. And I got a feeling that I'm going to be cussing quite a bit. So if you got little kids around, put them to bed. And if it's not around their bedtime, I mean, you can just, not listen to it while your kids are around. It's just what I advise. Or maybe you like your kids cussing, like the little baby in this show, but whatever. So we're going to do things a little bit different today. I'm feeling a little spicy. I'm actually going to give you my score before I play the obligatory clip. And afterwards, I'm going to get into some real talk and some spoiler talk. So if you stick around, please bear with me while I just work through all of this. In short, Good Times, the reboot, is childish, juvenile, stupid, ignorant, racist, problematic, not funny, fucking stupid, really stupid, and embarrassingly stupid. I hold everyone involved with this to condemnation. Like, this show really did not only piss me off in a lot of ways, but it highly disappointed me just given who is in it. Do I recommend this show? Absolutely not. And for the first time on video, you're going to hear me give a show a 0 out of 5, which is an unapologetic hot ass mess. With all that being said, Seth MacFarlane, Steph Curry, I'm not going to get into Norman Lear because he's no longer with us. And really, everybody else involved with this show, you can collectively take it, and off is the direction in which you can fuck. Wait, no Diddy, of course. Let's get into it.
Bitch, you look like money. What about the struggle?
We're black. It'll be here tomorrow.
Everything black, black bird, black moon, black sky, black light, black everything.
First things first, I want to get this out of the way. Seth MacFarlane, he fucking sucks. Like, that is our baseline right here. This needs to be understood before we can go any further. He needs either a talking baby or a talking dog or a talking alien or some kind of goldfish or some other kind of bullshit like a talking teddy bear to even be halfway decent at what he does. When he doesn't have any of that shit, he definitely fucking sucks. He sucks. He sucks. I don't know why he's associated with this. And you can tell what his influences are. Like, the most offensive parts, I'm absolutely certain they came across Seth MacFarlane's desk and he signed off on that shit and shot it to the moon. He sucks. There are a lot of bad qualities with this show. And without knowing just how involved he is, but knowing his material and the background with him and all the stuff that he does, you can really pick out what it is that he is contributed to in this show. And it all sucks. The whole show sucks. I don't know if this show would be any better without him, but it damn sure fucking sucks with him. Seth MacFarlane, he sucks. Now, moving on to Stephen Curry. One of the best basketball players I've ever seen, like, revolutionized the game. That's great for him in the NBA. Don't go into producing shit else, please, if this is what you're going to attach your name to. I don't know what his contributions were to this either, but I can tell you this. If he didn't know anything about this show and what it was going to be ahead of time and just kind of blindly signed on, or someone brought this to him and really didn't give him the full scope of what was about to happen with this show, then he needs some better people around him. He needs to get rid of somebody. I don't know what it is that he needs to do, but his legacy as a person is going to be impacted by this if enough people are pissed enough about it just to bring it up. And I'm not saying you're going to counsel him or anything like that. It's going to be one of those things where when he's old and gray, somebody is gonna say, well, you took a major L when you did that good time shit. Like you a 4-time champion, but good times, that was definitely a L, and you really tried to set us back with this. Like the comedy in this show feels like it came from someone who doesn't really understand black people and thinks that based on other TV shows or anything else that's promoting a stereotype, thinking that this is how black people act. And Steph Curry being a black man in America, having his name associated with this, is just not a good look. And finally, Norman Lear, the other man credited with being an executive producer. Norman Lear, like I said before, is no longer with us. Went to the great sweet by and by, wherever the hell he went. But although I'm not really going to say anything ill about him, I do want everyone to understand this. And this is some background on the original Good Times in which he executive produced. Norman Lear was approached by John Amos, and that's the role, about issues with the script. And they would try to give more input on how these black characters should progress. And basically what a black experience is, and they try to really give a better image of black people as a whole. And Norman Lear more or less said, I'm the boss, and at the end of the day, what I say goes. And so everything that these Caucasian writers have come up with, it has us in a top spot on network TV, and that's what we're going to do. And basically, to hell with your progression. That's his legacy in terms of the original Good Times. Now, he went on to create the Jeffersons and kind of clean it up, but that was only after the outrage of people when it comes to Good Times. So he tried to come back, clean it up in the end, but ultimately, he wasn't an ally at all to black imagery. And he perpetuated those stereotypes in the original Good Times. So, of course, his name is attached to this one. God rest his soul. Now, there are a couple things that you can do, and there are a couple things that you can't do when it comes to a sitcom or really comedy, period. You can be stereotypical. You can be offensive. You can cross that line, really. What you can't do is do all of those things and not be funny. And this show is not funny. There are a couple of chuckles here and there because, hell, the sun shines on the dog ass every now and again. But for the most part, the jokes just do not land and they're truly offensive. Like a drug dealing baby, really? That's the best we can do in 2024? Like that's what we're doing. Really? It's so many poor, ignorant stereotypes here. And you're like, this has to be written by people who have never been around other black people before. Like they found people in the whitest neighborhoods to write this shit. And you would be absolutely wrong. Renata Shepherd, black woman, she's the showrunner. There are so many black names and faces and directors associated with this and writers. Like this is written by black people, and that's the most problematic part to me. And it makes me feel like one of two things occurred. The first, and the one I actually kind of hope for, is that there were higher ups that didn't look like us that basically told these black creators that they need to not make this smart or less stereotypical in order to push an agenda, and you all are under contract and we want you to help us perpetuate this, and we're still going to pay you, but if you do anything outside of this, we'll fire you or sue you. That's what I hope happened. Here's what I don't wish. I'm really afraid that a collection of black people who get paid way more than me and have way more experience with writing anything than I do, got together and this was the best they could come up with. That's heartbreaking to think about. Like, this was what you all came together as a collection of creators and you put out some hot garbage stereotypical bullshit that perpetuates the worst stereotypes and pushes an agenda that we know exists forward. Something else that stood out to me and was truly alarming is there are no positive male figures in here. Like, the baby deals drugs. Uh, there are several other male characters that are either scammers or killers or both, like just gang members. All they do is shoot. Junior, who is basically taking over the role of JJ in this story, is a painter. Just like, I guess, the way that it's kind of like some continuity with the original Good Times, but not really. It's very loose. But theoretically, JJ would have been his uncle. But he's an artist and he paints and draws and all that kind of stuff. And he's like very stupid. Very stupid. Like, they made sure to make it a point that he's stupid and his father is uneducated, also stupid, and a bit of a jerk. Again, this is a Seth MacFarlane hallmark. I will say this about this: he does this with white characters too, so that's where I think his influence comes in. But at the same time, you got black writers and black directors, and again, this was the best that you could do. But all of the male characters, they're a wash. And when you look at the writers and the names, as well as the actors like JB Smooth and Jay Farrow, and just the list goes on, Wanda Sykes, you look at those names and it becomes clear very quickly. People were just collecting checks here because I know that they're better than this. Everybody was just collecting a check. And to be honest, as a black man in America who is definitely about his money, I can understand that to a degree. I personally couldn't do it, but I can't be all the way mad that you collected a check. However, I can definitely be disappointed. Now, do you ultimately give a damn what I think? Probably not. But this is just how I feel, man. It has to be a better way. And as a whole, and as leaders, I feel like they could have just simply said no. And there's no telling how many people did say no. But ultimately, the dollar won. And I know at this point, I've kind of mentioned the writing several times and how unfunny it is. Well, let me give you a couple of examples of some of the storylines and repeated jokes that we see over the course of the 10 episodes of this godforsaken series. There's an episode about women and their periods, which is, again, a hallmark of Seth MacFarlane. He likes female anatomy humor for whatever reason. Now, I can't say what's offensive about this episode. I'll leave that to our female or lady reviewers out there to get into that. However, as someone who cherishes the women in his life, the beautiful black women in his life, his wife and his daughter, I will say that this shit is offensive. It is. And there's really just no place in it. And when you see that a woman is the showrunner, a black woman is the showrunner for this, and this kind of garbage just makes it out, it's really concerning. Another thing, and I'm more spiritual than I am religious at this point, but the constant Black Jesus jokes over the first like 8 episodes, the joke doesn't work the first time, and it damn sure doesn't work the 10th or 23rd or whatever the fuck they try and make it happen again. It's just Black Jesus was just, oh, here we go, another Black Jesus joke. It becomes stale really quickly, like a lot of the stuff that's in this show. And this just leads me to my next point. There's a fine line between being satirical and making just observations and jokes about those observations, and really just poking fun at the downtrodden people or people that's really going through some tough times. And Good Times does a lot of poking fun, especially with like gun violence in Chicago. It's meant to be satirical in a way, but it's just not. It doesn't work in any way that you try and cut it up and shake it in this show. These people are writing and directing this like they've never done this shit before. And again, that is concerning. It really is. There's even an episode where uh one character is running for office, basically to become the super in the building, and she wants to make change in their environment. And other black leaders are telling her, if you stop the violence in the city, we won't have anything to do. The police department and fire department won't have anything to do, and it's going to lower the budget. And while that was an opportunity to really say some real shit, because we know that like city officials and stuff can be corrupt, they were just too dumb to execute that storyline properly. And again, it becomes a bunch of bullshit that we really could have done without. This show shouldn't exist. There's no reason for this. There's no place for this. We have so many great shows and movies. Abbott Elementary, Get Out. I mean, we can go back and look at Chappelle's Show. He did a lot of this same stuff, but he did it in a way to make you observe just how fucked up the environment is and the conditions in which our people are in. While, yeah, it's funny, but you realize, hey man, this is some real shit that he's saying. Good Times just does not know how to do that. And even in areas where I would like to say something positive, like in episode 8, they change up the animation. It's kind of like a comic book style because it fits the theme of a superhero. A Junior becomes like this superhero and he's fighting crime or whatever. And it's one of those things like, okay, this could be kind of cool, but you know what his superpowers are, and what happens for him to become a superhero? I'm not going to get into the full story, but he's essentially a half man, half chicken hybrid, and he shoots eggs out of his ass as a weapon. And yeah, that's a real episode that happens in this garbage ass show that I watched for you. I watched for y'all so y'all wouldn't have to. And after that episode, there are 2 other episodes that it kind of appeared that everybody somewhat tried, in which the police get involved, and there are some pretty fucked up jokes about police brutality and things like that. But it makes you kind of sit and think: is that what the police are thinking when they patrol these neighborhoods that are potentially dangerous or characterized as dangerous? Like, is this the thought process? And it kind of pokes fun at what um, police officers as a whole, especially Caucasian ones, get away with in a lot of situations with unjust shootings and things like that. And that was the one area in this show where I feel like the writers actually tried to say something. And even then, it's still not really good, nor is it really all that funny. But the irony in all of this is that there's a character who represents, quote unquote, the system. Her name is Allison Whiteman. And she outwardly says at one point that basically we're pushing stereotypes to keep your community down because this is where we want you. We don't want you to have more. We don't want you to achieve anything. We want you to stay in these circumstances. And we'll even use people that look like you to keep the rest of you under these circumstances. And what's ironic about that is that's what this show does. The system, quote unquote, came together and got a bunch of people that look like other people that they're supposed to be representing, and artistically they set us back and are trying to keep us in a place that we got past a long time ago. I don't know if that was done on purpose and was meant to make you look at this show a lot differently in the end, but it was like telling me, hey, we know what we're doing, and what the fuck are you going to do about it? I told y'all I didn't know how long I was going to go, but I feel like I've taken up enough of your time. So, if you made it this far with me on this journey, thank you so much. Continue to like, continue to share. I appreciate each and every subscription I've gotten so far and follow. Just thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you've seen Good Times and suffered through it, please feel free to go in the comments and let me know what you thought about it. And until next time, I'm Jarius the Unapologetic Geek, and I am out.